Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April 2014 Professor Messer A+ Study Group. This is the live call-in show where you get to ask your questions about the A+ certification and all of the topics associated with it, and I make an attempt to actually answer those. I'm James Messer. I will be your host for this hour. Usually we do an hour of study group and then we do an hour of just something else, just randomness. Some of it's A+ related, some of it isn't. We talk about those things. If you are watching things live here, then you can follow along at the Professor Messer website. If you go anywhere on the website, there's a chat at the bottom for the A+ study group. So if you're watching this live on YouTube, you might want to flip over there so you can participate in the chat room, and I'll see everything that you folks are doing in the chat room. There's plenty to talk about. I got a lot of questions. We might as well just start jumping into things. We do this study group because, well, you've sent me questions every month. You send me lots and lots of questions. I really appreciate the support of that. As many of you know, I make these A+ training videos. I have Network Plus training videos, Security Plus, Microsoft training videos. There's Linux, and there's even more coming. There's all kinds of little projects going on I can't wait to tell you about someday, very, very shortly, I hope. So a lot of people, though, like to take these videos offline. So if you want to have the 720p high definition videos that you can play on your computer, you certainly can. I'll show you a link here in a moment. If you're planning to join us and ask questions live today, I've got some phone numbers at the screen if you go to professormesser.com/live, or you can grab these numbers right here and call in live. There is also, since we're talking about how to get in touch with me and things that are going on, you can follow or subscribe to me on YouTube. If there was nothing else that you did, if you like watching these videos for free and you would like to give something back, I don't accept donations, but I would love it if you subscribe to me on YouTube. If you go to professormesser.com/YouTube, you can do something like that. And Twitter, I send out my daily pop quiz for A+ on Twitter. So that's a great place to go. Plus other things that I kind of find around the net. I like to put those out as well. So if you go to professormesser.com/Twitter, you can find that there as well. There's also vouchers. If you want to get 10% off your vouchers, you go to professormesser.com/vouchers. That's sponsored by GTS Learning. We'll talk more about GTS Learning here as well today. If you already have your A+ certification, this might be an opportunity to accumulate continuing education units. And if you're watching this, I'll be giving out, hopefully I'll remember to give out a secret code sometime during the webcast today. And if you send that to me, I'll send you a little email certification that, yes, indeed, you were listening, you were here, and you saw the whole thing. And I believe it's the same thing for recorded webinars. So if you're watching this after the fact, I believe CompTIA will take that as well, according to what they have on the CompTIA website associated with this, the certification.comptia.org/get-certified/stay certified. It's a big URL, but if you simply search for CompTIA Continuing Education, you'll find all the things that you can do to accumulate continuing education units. Of course, you have to remember to have those continuing education units so that you can renew your certification. That's just one method. Other people might use other methods to renew. It's not something you have to do, but it's kind of nice to have this capability here. And unfortunately, you can't just watch a bunch of videos and get recertified. You can only watch so many videos, then you have to do other things as well. Sorry about that. I was mentioning earlier that some people like to take this course offline. If you're interested in doing something like that, you can get more details about that on the Professor Messer website. The CompTIA A+ pull-down menu will take you right to the downloadable links, or you can simply go to professormesser.com/downloadable-A+. I include PDFs with that. I include MP3 files, so you can take them with you. I include some high-definition versions. There is also some really interesting things that I've done with transcripts and closed captions. They're all on there. So if your English maybe isn't your first language, you can at least follow along with the text. You may notice that the following along with the text is also available on the website as well. I put all the transcripts there, and they've all been uploaded to YouTube to act as the closed captioning on YouTube. So I don't use the closed captioning on YouTube that has the interesting words that it tries to figure out what you're saying. No, I sent these videos off to professionals who typed everything in, and I took that transcribed set of the video and imported it into YouTube, and it follows along with what I'm saying. So that may be something you can use, an option that you can use to be able to do that. So there's quite a bit going on those lines. Remember, the phone lines are open. If you'd like to find those phone numbers, it is on the ProfessorMesser.com/live page. One of these days, I'll do a lower third and we'll just keep phone numbers up there the whole time. That's what I really should do. But before we go to the lines, I see some people already called in. We'll go to you in just a moment. One of the things that I like to do is find out more about you. Plus, here's an opportunity to use your QR code reader on your device. I like to get information from you, and I'd like to know, how long have you been studying for your A+ certification? So if you go to govote.at and you put in the number 998735, or use your QR code reader, take a snapshot there, and we can get a feel for what we are seeing or what you're telling me you've been doing for studying for your A+ certification. While we do that in the chat room, some folks are saying, oh, I get it on Facebook. You get those daily pop quiz messages on Facebook. And I try to put a lot of information on Facebook. The problem, of course, is that Facebook will not show you everything I do. You have to go to my page to see everything I do. They aren't going to show everybody who likes me on Facebook everything I post. Intentionally. That's their business model. If I wanted everyone to see it, I simply would have to pay them money and they would send it to everybody. And it would be literally hundreds of dollars a day for me to send everybody my A+ pop quiz on Facebook. So I'm not really going to do that. But if you go follow me on Twitter, you will absolutely get every post. And I put a few extra things on Twitter. So you not just getting A+ pop quizzes, anything I find, I try to put out there. One of the things you can see, people are voting now with how long they've been doing this. And while we're waiting for folks to vote, it's like we have another Floridian on the line from the 813 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Oh, I can hear the noise there. One of the folks that haven't followed us here and seen these phone calls, I'm the only one here. There are no call screeners in the studio. So you get the fortunate piece of me trying to call screen while I'm also picking up the phone line. Are you there, caller? I can sort of hear something going on there. Oh, there's noise. I hear you picking up the microphone. Are you there? Are you there, caller? That's gripping radio right there. That's a gripping video stream. Are you there? 813 area code. Somebody in Tampa area, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, St. Petersburg, Florida, Tampa Bay.
Hi, Professor. My name is Robert. I'm actually in Atlanta, Georgia from Tampa.
Aha, the 813. You've now changed the geography on us. Well, thanks for calling, Robert. What can we do for you today?
Oh, I'm a IT technical help for a company called Smarsh. We do archiving and email hosting, and I'm currently customer service, and I've been told by my coworkers I actually go for A+ and other certifications, and I've been doing the Career Academy, if you've heard of them before.
The name sounds familiar, not very familiar with them, though.
Well, they were a Groupon, so I decided to try it, and I've been studying for it. I built my own computers for years.
Oh, great.
I know how to build it from scratch. And I was just wondering, what kind of jobs should I look for going for A+, Net+, Security+,
this is,
and that type of thing?
Well, what a good lead-in to what we're going to be talking about today. It's a very common question I get for the study groups, and I rarely address it for some reason. I'm not sure why I rarely address it, but it's a good question to address. One of the things that we are always working towards, it seems, is what the next step is going to be. People ask me all the time, so what in your career, what's the next thing you're doing? Where are you going next? We're always thinking about what we're doing today and what we're going to next. And there obviously is a path that people tend to take in IT, but not everybody takes the same path. But maybe we can break down A+ and Network+ and Security+, and at least get a perspective of those things to see how they apply. Generally, the A+ certification is one that is that entry-level cert. It is one that you can at least prove to people that all of those things that you've been doing for years, putting PCs together, you've been finding the right memory, you've been installing the memory, you've been turning it on, you've been troubleshooting the device when it doesn't work, you've been installing the Windows operating system. It's a good way to prove to people that you know these things. A lot of people who've been doing this for years and years and years tend to discount the A+ and say, well, it's not really worth your time. And for someone who who is already in a networking or security position, maybe that's correct, but this really fits perfectly into what you're trying to do. You're in an entry-level kind of help desk position. You're just getting into IT. You're kind of feeling out, and you're getting, in fact, I love the help desk because you get an approach of so many different types of IT areas. The database area, you're talking to the server folks, you're dealing with the network team, you're seeing what the security team's working on. It's a great place to sit down and watch what happens around you. And I think the A+ is a good example. I think the advice you got was probably pretty good. Now, the question is going to be, though, what do you plan to do with it? That's usually when people say, should I get this certification? The value of a certification is only going to be as valuable as what you plan to do with it. And you may be getting your A+ certification for personal reasons. You may want to just have the A+ certification because it's important to you to have that A+, or you may be getting the A+ certification to prove to your management that you know enough to go into the server team and work with them, or the workstation team, the workstation management, or work in the data center or with networking. In your particular case, Robert, what are you trying to do with that certification?
I've been in customer service for the last 10 years since pretty much I graduated high school,
Okay.
and I want to move away from customer service and do something like we have a team that deals with mostly Exchange servers because we're doing email hosting and then also web archiving, and I just want to get away from talking to the customers.
I sometimes will say when it's an especially hard day that this job would be fantastic if I didn't have to interact with people who needed my services. That's the nature of the beast, it seems. I got some very good advice very early in my career, and the advice was there will always be politics and there will always be these interactions with customers and the way that things operate, and people will always be kind of jostling around for position within organizations. The real key to politics is how you deal with it. You can choose how you want to interact with the nonsense that sometimes happens in the corporate environment. And I've got to say, Robert, in your case, you're working in a field that deals so specifically with email, it makes perfect sense for you to focus your efforts and learn as much as you can about what that business is doing, because you can take that knowledge, pick it up, and go anywhere. Hopefully you stay within your company and they want to have you there and they can move you up the organization and you can work with the servers that you have and do the archiving and understand the back-end processes and deal with the server integrations and all of those pieces. But boy, what a great set of knowledge to have. It's those, and in fact, I really recommend it for people who are trying to get out of the help desk and go to the next step, is find something that's interesting to you and focus on it. If you can learn that niche, find that niche, whatever it is, and really dive into it. For me, when I left the help desk, I started at an insurance company help desk. I really started before that with cable delivery, and laser printer delivery, and moved into help desk. And then from there, I chose Windows operating system. It had just come onto the market, or 3.1 had just been released, 3.0 had just been released. And corporations were embracing it. It was the very first graphical display that was really widespread in these large organizations. And I learned everything I could about Windows because nobody knew anything about it. It was brand new. How do you manage it? Can we put this information on a server? What is a win.ini file? How does that work? How do I edit it? How do I manage all these workstations? It was a great opportunity to move out of the help desk and get more into the higher level. And that led to servers. It led to networking. It led to security. It leads you wherever you want to go. And I like the idea that you're focusing in on that piece. If you were to move up in your organization, say out of the help desk and move into a job with managing the servers or understanding more about the Exchange process, or maybe now there's a focus on how do you integrate with Microsoft's 360 services now that so many people are moving to email in the cloud. Now there are challenges with those companies that need to archive it from the cloud. There's so much to wrap your head around and figure out those pieces. Have you spoken to the people that are the managers of the job that you're interested in to find out what it is they want from the people working for them?
They usually don't give us a ton of information. I get more from my coworkers who are already in that type of position. I can't say my company's promotion is, unless you know somebody, it's usually, like you said, politics.
Right.
Knowing where to go and who to go to get that position. So it's political in nature. It's just I'm thinking something like a tier 2 position where I could help tier 1s with their issues is what I was looking to probably go to for the next step.
You're doing a pretty good job there of finding the information sources. Then find those people that are in that position now. What is it you have to know? How do I learn more about what you're doing? One of the things I used to do at a call center I used to work at was I would go to the teams that were doing a big project. Maybe it was maybe they were building out part of the data center. They were putting in all new workstations. They were imaging a whole bunch of workstations at one time, and they had to do it after hours. So I took a chance to go sit with them or help. I asked, do you need some help? And they're like, yeah, we're toting all these machines around. Of course we need help. And they'll let you hang out and see what they're doing. And I invested time. There wasn't a lot of money investing there because I wasn't really getting paid to be on their team, but they were able at least to understand that I was interested in what they were doing. I wanted to know more about the processes there. I learned about the things they were doing, and I was able to use that information later. So that may be another opportunity that if you can't get to the managers of those people, I think you're doing the right thing. Go to them directly and say, what's going on here? How can I help? Any big projects going on? What does it take to do something like that? And maybe you can find somebody who'll let you just sit over their shoulder and watch what's going on, or perhaps even actively participate in those projects.
Yes, they were telling me to go with the basics and then maybe an MSCE or SA.
I think that's probably a pretty good path for you if you're thinking Microsoft Exchange. Get your A+, which gives you a fundamental knowledge of the Windows operating systems. How do you troubleshoot them if they don't start up? It leads you into more of the Microsoft world, and then absolutely jump into now it's the MCSA and the MCSE certifications from Microsoft that really focus on perhaps Exchange technologies or Windows Server technologies that, of course, Exchange is going to run on. I think that's a great path for you. Whoever's giving you this advice, I think, is really pointing you in the right direction.
That's good to hear.
I think that's pretty exciting. Keep us updated with how things are going, and be interesting to see how this all works out and what the path is. I would love to hear how all of those things go. So feel free to drop a line or call in another study group. We'd love to hear about it.
Will do. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for calling, Robert. There's a lot to be done with career advancement. We can talk more about that in a bit because I did get some emails. But as a summary, we've had some folks vote at govote.at. We've got a nice mix. Looks like our sweet spot today is the folks that have been doing this for 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months. Not years, 6 to 9 months. More than a year, 6 of us, though. I'm the more than a year people. We've talked about that before with doing this for more than a year. And a few of you just getting started. So the big group of you are usually up to the 6-month period. Looks like we have just as many after 6 months this time than we do for the 6-month period this time. There's a lot going on with those pieces. There is, let's jump in the chat room real quick. I do see some calls are holding. Just a reminder, you can find the phone number to dial in at professormesser.com/live, and the phone numbers are right there. If you're calling in from anywhere, you can call 347-989-8745. And if you're calling in via Skype, I have a free Skype number for you. That is 855-235-4742. And I think I have one that's calling in. We have an odd number there with a bunch of stuff. So I'm just going to pick up the line and you'll hear the beep. And are you there, caller? I think this might be one from outside the United States. It's very quiet. And that may be a Skype.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Hello, caller. What's your name?
Hello. How are you? My name is Daniel.
Hello. Thanks for calling.
I'm calling from Belgium, and I like to know because I have been studying the A+ exam for from 1 to 3 months, and then I decided to apply for a course in the UK.
Okay.
That they say that you can be certified in 4 days.
Wow.
And I was wondering, whenever I was watching the video on your website, I saw that people, they have been studying for almost 1 year, and they still didn't apply for the exam. So I was a little bit worrying about that I don't know if I should trust this company, this institution that they tell you that you're going to be certified in 4 days. And I'm kind of, if you can advise me and tell me this is possible to get certified or to get the A+ exam in only 4 days, full training, I don't know. So
yeah, let's talk about that, because that is your question. I think you probably sent me an email earlier in the week prior to this, or during your registration you put this in, but it's a common question that I get. If you look around on the internet, there are a lot of places that do these 4 days is really aggressive. Usually it's a 5-day, and they call it a boot camp, like a military boot camp, where they put you in there and you do, I don't know, push-ups and sit-ups and crawl over large obstacle courses. I don't know. I guess it's similar to doing something like that. Is an intense 5-day, and usually it's from 8 in the morning till 8 at night kind of scenario. There is a place for those. I think there is obviously a market for those, but as you have probably seen, just the people that are on this call, some of us have been studying for certainly more than a month at doing this. And some of us more than a year, because life happens and you have to keep track of everything that's going on. 4 days is extremely aggressive. And I think there's a place for these 4-day and 5-day courses. And here's the way I see them working. I think that I don't think, without any knowledge, that any person will be able to go to a 4 or 5-day class and at the end of it be able to pass both their 22801 and 22802. Certainly not reliably. I think that's, as you've probably seen as you've looked through all of the information on the exam, that's a lot of information. That's a huge amount of information. In fact, the A+ certification, if you look at both exams, the 801 and the 802 together, it's an incredibly broad perspective. You have to know hardware. There's networking information you need to know. There's security aspects. You have to know 3 different operating systems, how to install them, how to troubleshoot them. You have to know command line parameters. There is so much information to be able to deal with that. How are you ever going to have all of that information soak into your brain in 4 or 5 days if you know nothing about this to begin with at zero, with knowing nothing or knowing very little or just getting into technology? So if your position is that I've never really worked inside of a computer before, or I'm not really sure how Windows as an operating system really works, I've never really installed Windows before, and I've certainly never worked at the command line, a 4-day course is extremely aggressive and it bound for some type of horrible result afterwards, it would seem, unless you're just brilliant. If you're one of those people who can sit down and absorb everything and spit it out perfectly, maybe you can do this in 4 days. I don't know how I would do that in 4 days. I think about some of the certifications that I've gotten recently in very security type things. I had to study for weeks, read through materials, understand what was going on before I walked into those certifications. So I don't think so. Now, let's say, though, that you've gotten a book, you've watched some of the videos, you maybe have done some Q&A tests, maybe you grab some of the tests and the labs that are on the live labs that I talk about from GTS Learning. You've got accustomed to the command line, and you're just not quite sure if you're ready to go in and take the exam. Maybe a 4-day course is perfect for you then, because you can really go through every single bit of the course. They can really give it to you in a tight 4-day period, and on the 5th day, you can go and take the exam. Maybe it's your last cram session, a heavy-duty cram session going into it. These courses are pretty expensive, though. I would imagine the cost of this is pretty costly for a 4-day intensive course.
Actually, it was really, really expensive. So, and that's why, because I didn't have, I just have, I have been studying for only 3 months. So, and I saw that I won't get there studying by myself. So I say, I'm gonna apply for one of these courses, and then they tell me that in 4 days, so they can help me, and I can be certified because it's 12 hours a day. And then I say, okay, maybe I'm gonna be studying for 3 months by myself, and then I'm gonna take one of those courses, and then I'm gonna get professional help.
Well,
so that's why I apply for that. But now I just happened to buy a book from the Amazon,
Great.
but it's really a lot of things, and it's been quite difficult for me to memorize all these things. And I have been doing 2 test exams, and I failed. So I'm like, and I already paid the course, so I'm afraid to waste all this money, and I don't know what to do, because I think it's kind of impossible to memorize and to know all this in only 4 days.
So
Not
you
even
say
if
you've already
you
paid
are-
for the course. You're locked in.
I already paid for this course because I didn't know what to do, So I just say, okay, maybe it's good if I book, because there wasn't place left. So they told you that you have only 3 months. You need to book now, otherwise you will stay without any place.
Wow.
And then this year they told me that they're gonna change the 800 series already, the exam.
Well, there's certainly no
So-
plans to change the 800 series. So that was just done a year ago. So you've probably got another couple of years to deal with that. So I don't think that's going to be your biggest problem. But now you're locked in though. So now we have a different strategy. We have to get through this 4-day course. How can we get through the 4 days and hopefully have everything we need to be able to do that? So and this is a question I get a lot. It really applies to whether you are doing this first. As BSOD said in the chat room, that I would cry if I had to do it in 4 days, and I probably would too. So you're going to have to put yourself in a happy place, and then you're going to want to get as much information into your head as you can before you go to this. And here's the resources I generally will recommend if you had to do this in a very short time frame. First, get a good book. There are a lot of really good books on Amazon. It sounds like you've done that already, which is a great step. The videos that I have go through every single topic from the A+ certification, but you can only fit so much information into a video, and it's really presented in a certain way. I like to be able to do both things. I like to be able to read a book because it gives you information one way. I learn it certain ways by reading, and I learn other ways by watching. So my entire A+ series, you should absolutely go through before you walk into the room in that 4-day cram session. So you'll have a book, you'll have the videos, and then you might want to do some Q&A. You might want to do it through GTS Learning's Freestyle. You might want to grab the Exam Cram Practice Questions book, which is another book from Amazon, but it's relatively expensive. It's called the Exam Cram Practice Questions for the A+ certification.
Yeah.
It is a very good book.
I had the exam trend.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. It's an exceptional
got it
book.
back.
It has a lot of questions. It, of course, gives you the answer to the multiple choice question, but it also, in the back, gives you a detailed explanation of why that question was right and why those particular answers were wrong, which I think is a nice thing, too. You're probably not going to be able to grasp everything from watching all of the videos and reading the book in a short period of time. I usually have to read certification books twice. I read through them once and kind of get a high-level view, and then I go back and really drill down into the details. I think the more interesting way to do this would be to read through as much of the book as you can, watch as many of the videos as you can, go to the 4-day course, and did they say that you had to take the test at the end, or do you schedule the test yourself when it's done?
Yeah. Do you think, because I'm watching all your videos in your blog every day, and I'm reading as well, but I'm so nervous because it's taking place, the exam in 1 month. It's taking place, this course. I think that I'm not well prepared still. So I'm not well prepared. So do you think in 1 month that I have only right now, I can I can get there, I can pass the exam?
I think you can. I think you've got a month to study. If you really dedicate the time during this month that you have before this boot camp that goes on, this 4-day session, I think if you read through a book, watch the videos, and use the exam objectives. If you haven't downloaded the CompTIA exam objectives from the website yet, you should absolutely do that, because that gives you
I had.
Good. That gives you a great checklist.
I downloaded and I have been studying through the exam objectives.
Perfect. That gives you a fantastic checklist that you can use. So when you know something pretty well, you can check it off. One advantage you have is that you don't have to go very, very deep with a lot of these topics. So you have to know about the memory types, but you don't necessarily have to know how the memory exactly works and where the data is stored inside of the memory and how the data goes across the bus. You just have to know very high level how the memory plugs into the computer, that it does communicate across the bus to the memory controller. And that's all you have to know. You don't have to know exactly how that happens. You don't have to know the protocols on the bus and understand the electrical signaling that takes place between all of those. You just have to have that higher level view. So I think you're in pretty good shape. I think you've got a good way to, or a good time frame that you can ramp up in a month. That's a pretty good time frame to go through and really drill down on the book, drill down on the practice questions, watch the videos. Then when you walk into that classroom experience, you can ask more educated questions of the instructor. When he's talking about memory and you've got questions about it, you've already got at least a basic understanding, and now you can soak in the last few parts. It's not insurmountable, and with a month lead time, I think you'll be able to do it and at least take advantage of the investments you've made in that course. We wish you the best of luck. I can't wait to hear a month from now how things are going, so please let us know how that goes.
Okay. So I would like to thank you as well, because thank you to your videos in the blog. It helped me a lot to understand more about memory and about how it's work. All these three type of DDR, DDR2, DDR3. All this I was really confused because I didn't understand whenever I read in the book. And I was looking in internet as well, and I didn't understand. And with your video, the way that you explained, it was perfect for me. Now it's pretty clear for me, and I think I can answer any kind of question about memory type and all these things. Thank you to your videos, and thank you for your time and for everything. And you really put me in a good. I'm sorry about my English because it's not really very good, but you put me in a good shape. I feel better now.
Your English,
because I was so worried about that.
Your English is much better than my Flemish, so we're in fine shape as far as that's concerned. I'm glad my videos don't have to be done in a different language. You're more than welcome. Good luck with that, and definitely send me an email report back. Let me know how it goes. As long as you apply it in the next 30 days, the next month, I think you're going to be fine. So best of luck to that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
And have a great day.
You too. Thank you. That's boy, those boot camps. There were some folks in the chat room that were giving prices for some of the boot camps that can be seen. Somebody said, "Oh yeah, in Atlanta, 6 days, and it's what was it? What, $2,000, $3,000 to do some of these boot camps?" Oh, here a place in Atlanta, $3,700 for 6 days. Anthony, seriously? That's. Why am I doing free videos? Why aren't I teaching a class and putting 20 people in it? But that's what they're doing. But it takes time to sit in front of a class, and these are 12-hour days, and you're doing it for 6 days, and that's extreme to be able to see things like that going on. Well, we've hit the halfway mark of our study group. We have another call on the line. I see you holding caller, so we'll definitely get to you in just a bit from the 941 area code. Remember, you can call in also. The lines are available on our website at professormesser.com/live. You can get those phone numbers. But I also wanted to make you aware of some of the other things that I have been working on along these lines with the Professor Messer website. Some folks have sent me some emails over the past month and said, I would like to be able to take all the information in your videos. I'm trying to write everything down and be able to see everything that's going on. And there's a lot there, obviously. So what I did was take every single note from every single one of my videos. I took the graphics, I took a lot of information, and I put them into a study guide, a series of study guides. So if you're taking your 801, you can buy an 801 study guide. So these are things you might use after you've read the book, you've watched the videos. Now you need kind of a cheat sheet. You need a quick way to go through all of that information in a very short period of time. And if you're not somebody who likes to write a lot of notes, I've done all of that for you. So let me give you an idea what this looks like. Here is, let's push a button. Let's show you this. There we go. So here's my 801 study guide, for instance. And we were just talking about memory. There's the memory types on there. Here's another page of different plugs and different connectors. I went around my house and started taking pictures, and I went out to sites that give me that. RAID, we always have a lot of questions about RAID. There's a summary of RAID. So there are 9 pages in this 801 study guide. I've got 12 pages in my 802 study guide, and it's a lot of information in a very small, compact space. And it's also a way that, as I mentioned, I don't take donations to the website. So it's these $10 products that help keep this website running. And you've been extremely supportive with being able to purchase these. And hopefully, I've gotten some very good feedback. Hopefully, you're able to use that to pass your exams too. So I feel not only are you helping to keep the site running, but I think you're also getting something in return that can really help you when it comes time to get your certification and really study for those things. And you can find all of that at ProfessorMesser.com/A+SG. You can also go to the pull-down menus for the A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, Microsoft courses, and there is a study guide link inside of there that you can find as well. There's a lot going on with all of those pieces. And there are study guides for every single one of those. I spent quite a bit of time churning through them. You folks were tenacious and saying, are they done yet? Have you finished the study guides? There's quite a bit there. We've got a caller on the line from the 941 area code. Let's see if I can pick that caller up. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Hello. Thanks for holding for so long. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's no problem at all.
Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Joel, I just wanted to call back to let you know how that one laptop went by. I told you about how, the system idle time and, some of the things that I had looked at.
Right. So
like
we talked about this, I guess it was last month's study group, where you had a laptop and there were certain processes that seemed to be going off the charts at times. We'd gone through some, in fact, on the study group is one of the first things we covered last month was going through and looking at the task manager and having a feel and getting an idea of what was there. What did you end up finding?
I ended up doing, taking it in and doing virus scans, malware scans and stuff, and turns out it had just been a while since we had cleaned it out and stuff, and because normally it's just kind of left up, just used for that one program every week, and nobody really takes it down to clean it up, and that just kind of optimized it again.
When you ran the virus scans and the malware scans, did you find anything?
I mean, I didn't particularly do it, but unfortunately, we had somebody in our church that did do it, and he did give me kind of a feedback of what it was.
So this person went through and did some scans. They scanned for malware. They probably did some disk defragmentation. They checked for temporary file space, all those things that kind of go around optimizing a laptop. I would imagine if they'd found something really bad on the malware side, they probably would have given you a heads up on that one, I would think. But that's.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was. I'm able to see this one, every week, and it seems like it was just a cleanup and stuff. Unfortunately, somebody in our church was already in charge of that, and even though as of tomorrow, actually, I've been certified for a month as an A+ technician.
All right, congratulations.
Your study guides and videos. I remember really cramming for the 802, really just going straight down through the videos like crazy, and just getting that information in there, and then just kind of cramming at the last minute with the study guide, which really helped a lot.
That's the kind of studier I am, is I get the high level in there, and then I have to dive in and get all of those pieces. And then I've got pages of notes that I have to go through before I walk in the door. So in fact, in our chat room earlier, I think it was yesterday, someone was saying, "Oh, I'm going in to take my test in an hour. What advice can you give me?" I don't know if I can give you advice if you're going in an hour. I think a day.
So much stopping.
I think after a day, I might be able to give you that. Now, 24 hours before you took your exam, what things did you do to kind of finalize in your brain what things you needed to know?
I mean, really, I just went in, just made sure, I just, touched up on the troubleshooting theory and a little bit of things such as like just processes to fix like the boot sectors and master boot records and just more operating system things. I felt pretty comfortable in most of the areas. I know I ended up getting I believe it was like somewhere around like 740-ish.
Okay. So yeah, this is your 801 and your 802. It was the 802.
802. Yep. That was the 802. I got 731 on my 801.
Okay. Isn't it nice to hit that button? It's that hitting of the button. For those of you who haven't taken the exam before, going in to take the test is stressful enough where you're sitting down, your adrenaline is flowing. It takes me 10 minutes to kind of get into the groove where I can read a question and then remember what I just read that was right in front of me, and then finally get through the entire exam. It's at the end, because you're going to jump back and forth between questions on the exam. It's at the end. You have to hit this submit button to submit your score.
I can definitely relate to that.
and you're wondering, okay, here we go. I'm going to hit it, because with A+, it's pass or fail. Whatever grade you end up getting doesn't ultimately really matter, because you either get your A+ certification or pass that exam, or you don't pass the exam. And it's that.
Exactly.
It's the pushing of that last button that always drives me crazy.
Are you sure you want to submit it?
Yeah, it asks you, are you sure you want to do that?
Sure.
I don't. Then it's very introspective. That flash of, am I really smart enough to really be able to do this?
Yeah.
And, did I do everything right? Did I miss anything? Yeah, okay. And you're also thinking, if I have to take this again, I have to spend this money again. Let's see what happens. Click. Yeah. And so all these things are rushing through your heads. It's so nice when it comes back. And then there's a delay. Yeah. There's like 1,000.
I know. It's just like
1,000.
It's just like they're like just doing it just to like, oh, come on.
I think is it the A+ now, where before you get your score, you've submitted the exam? Are they still asking for information about demographics? Are they still asking you for name and age?
Yeah, they're still asking for the survey.
Okay, so you have to take a survey before you actually get the score.
And then after that, then they give it to you.
It's nice though when it finally comes up and says, okay, that's what it was. It was you doing this. So it's good when that finally comes back with a pass. Well, it was also good to get the follow-up on your on the laptop and what was going on with that. It's a good thing also you didn't have anything too horrible. And now you've probably gotten a little better at going through the task manager and understanding some of that too, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Just wanted to thank you for all the study guides and the videos again. Yesterday, my instructor at my technical institute actually told us to send in our resumes to this one company here locally. I'm here in Bradenton, Florida.
Yep.
So ended up sending it, and was for a level 1 IT technician, kind of help desk, and just service technician.
Right.
Just helping people that come in, with any problems, saying, maybe they don't know how to set up their phone, or they just need their laptops re-imaged, or just, anything that they could bring in. They actually just sent a representative over, kind of just giving us an overview of the stuff, and seemed pretty interested in me and the other candidate that I was with, and said that, they really enjoyed talking to us,
This is whenever I'm working with, and we haven't even talked much in our study groups about the interviewing process. Sometimes I'll talk a little bit about those things, but that to me is the most, I wouldn't say frustrating, but the most anxiety ridden part of the process to me, because you're not really talking technology at that point. You're really presenting yourself. You're selling yourself to whoever's on the other side of the desk. You're dressing up kind of funny, then you're not used to wearing the tie, and you've got the jacket on. And in fact, we've gone back and forth in our chat about what are you doing wearing a tie to an interview. Everybody there is not wearing a tie, but they don't. You have to understand that when you're walking in, you're selling yourself. It doesn't matter how they dress day to day. It matters the approach that you show when you walk in the door. In fact, I had made some notes. There's a subreddit on how to dress. There's one for men, there's one for women on how to dress professionally. And some people will say, I'm going into an interview, here's what I'm wearing, and they take a picture of themselves. And people on Reddit are going, that tie, not really what you should be doing there. The shirt's okay. Maybe you could get one that fits a little better down near the waist. It was kind of interesting to see that aspect of someone thinking about going into an interview and approaching it that way, because it does take you outside the scope of IT completely when you're doing something like that. Well, that's great.
Well, they had definitely they seemed pretty interested in me, and that it's gonna call me either later today or if not by Sunday to set up an interview, and hopefully everything goes well.
That's great. I was going to ask how that was turning out. That's fantastic. Well, good luck with that. There was on one study group, there were some interesting questions that people were asking about. How do I answer questions during an interview? So you might also want to Google some things like that, grab some resources, because there are a number of kind of the stock interview questions that if you've never had to answer them before, they can kind of get you. Like what types of things do you feel you're not strong in? What types of technologies are you weak in? And you never want to give I got a big list of things I'm not weak in. Let me give you the list. You got a pen? This is going to take a while, and we'll go down the list. You want to answer those questions in a way that brings back something positive to you. So consider the technical questions, but also consider those non-technical ones as well. Well, good luck with that. And again, let us know how that goes. I'd love to hear the end of that story.
Definitely. Thank you.
Best of luck with that.
Thank you for everything. All righty. Well, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. There's so much when you get into the interview. It's almost a science unto itself. There are classes you can go to that do nothing but talk about the interview process and how to present yourself and how to speak properly to the person who's across the desk. In fact, the interview, I haven't gone in interviews in a long time, and a number of years ago, I interviewed for a new position, and I flew out to California and did horribly. I just did miserably. I didn't eat well before going in. I didn't get very good sleep because I had moved. It was now West Coast. I'm used to being on the East Coast. I was kind of off my game when I walked in, and I had some good conversations with some people and some not good conversations with others. It was a horrible interview. And somehow I did manage to get the job because I had to go afterwards and do a lot of damage control on that piece. There's a whole nother study group we can do. Maybe the after show, since we only have 10 seconds left. I'll remind those listening live. We have calls. We have lines open on the study group call-in lines. You can call studio lines at 347-989-8745 or our toll-free numbers at 855-235-4742. If you're on Skype, you can call anywhere in the world for free on the +1 855-235-4742 number. If you need those numbers, they're at professormesser.com/live. It's one of those, we'll talk about bad interview stories in the after show. I think that would be a good place to do that. When I was, we were talking about that 802 course earlier. And for those who are watching this would be a good time for those of you watching this for CEU credit. To be able to get an email certification from me saying you have watched this live event or you have watched the replay of the live event, simply send me an email. All you have to put in the email is the word interview. And it is if you go to the Professor Messer website, there's a contact us link right at the top, or you can just send an email to me directly, james@professormesser.com, and it will get to me. The contact us link has a nice little form, and you always wonder when you're typing in those forms if it's really going to work. It will. My form really works. and it will send a message to me, and it shows up on my iPhone, and we get to see all of those things. So don't worry. I will absolutely get that. The secret word is interview. If you're wanting to see more of those things, that's a great place to do it. I was mentioning earlier, while we're waiting for folks to call in, I was mentioning earlier about studying for the 802 exam and being able to kind of keep track of things that you have to know. Joel was just talking about you got to know operating systems. You got to know the command line pieces. There's the networking pieces. There's so much that you have to be able to step through to be able to do these things. The 801 actually is not as bad when it comes to knowing things at the command line. There's no command line for the 801 exam, but the 802 exam requires that you know Windows. You have to know how to manage disks. You have to know about command line troubleshooting. You have to be able to rebuild a hard drive that has lost its boot sector. How do I rebuild the boot sector? All these things. And if you've never worked on these systems before, then it becomes even more of a challenge, because now you have to kind of learn Windows from the bottom up. Can you imagine never having touched the Windows operating system, and now you have to go to the command line and type things in? Moving around the graphical environment, understanding where things are, where the control panel is, where the administrative tools are, that's hard enough. But now you have to be able to understand more of this. That's why I'm really glad I'm working with the folks at GTS Learning. They have a set of live labs that can help get you into knowing more about how all of this works together. These live labs have a step-by-step lab that you're able to go into, and there's live equipment there. It's a virtualized environment. You can run everything from your browser. You don't even have to know anything else about the configuration that's there. You can't break anything on your computer because your remote desktop into these other devices. And what's nice about it is they have an hour that you can use these for free. If you go to professormesser.com/freestyle labs, you'll be able to see that. And I also got a good price from them. They come down off their regular price to $99 to be able to do that. And to be able to use it, it is so simple. I've got one running right here on my desktop. I'll zoom in on this so you can see it a little better. On the right side of my screen is the lab itself. So it takes you through understanding how to do everything graphically. You can see visually on the screen exactly what you're supposed to do next. And on the left side of the screen are the boxes themselves. There's a domain controller. It even gives you the username and password for that. There is a Windows 7 device, and there's a Windows XP device. So maybe you're running Windows 7 on your desktop, but you'd like to maybe run Windows XP. Well, it's by simply clicking on this device, now it's launching Windows XP. There it is. Now I've got a Windows XP running right here in this remote window that's on my desktop. There it is. And I can do everything that you would normally do on a Windows XP. Now I'm running on my actual desktop the Mac OS operating system, Mac OS 10. But that's okay. I'm still running a real Windows XP. Let's run a Windows 7 here also. So now I've got a Windows 7 running. I've got a Windows XP going. There's a Windows 7. So just in a few clicks, I'm able now to get into a Windows 7 environment. I can even go back and forth and understand more about what the differences are. We can already visually see there are a number of differences between those two. What a great way to step through these pieces and understand more about what I'm supposed to be able to do to make these things happen, all in a virtualized environment. And they give you an hour for free. So if you don't want to invest the $99, that's just not something you want to be able to do, or at least you're not sure that's something that's going to help you, you could read through every single one of these labs in that 1 hour, start a few of these up and try it yourself. Go to professormesser.com/freestyle labs. We thank GTS Learning for helping support what we do here at Messer Studios. I think there's a great opportunity there to, instead of rummaging around and trying to find operating systems to install and running it on your own system with virtualized environments, and you need more RAM to be able to do that, it's going to use disk space. It's all on the web. It's in the cloud. You don't even have to worry about that piece. Really, really useful to have that there. So a lot of you have been asking me about how do I prepare for those performance-based questions. That might be a really good way to do that. We've got a few more callers on. We're coming up on top of the hour. We've got time for at least one here. And if you're still on the line, I will be going back to calls in the after show. So feel free to call in. We're not going to stop everything after an hour. What fun would that be? But after an hour, you get your CEU credit. You see how that works? I'm going to lock you down to an hour so you can at least lock in and get that CEU from CompTIA. So let's go to the next call. There is the 559 area code. Are you there, caller? It's very quiet. Hear nothing on that 55. Oh, here's something.
Hello.
Hello, 559.
Hey,
Hi, what's your name? What question do you have?
my name is John.
Hey, John, thanks for calling. What can we do for you today?
I was wondering, I see the question a lot in the chat about the difference between schooling, certifications, and experience,
Yes.
and which one's more important.
This is a question for the ages. You're right. It's one that comes up all the time. And let me give you my philosophy. I think some people think other ways about each one of those things and put a different weighting on them. And certainly when you go into a job and you're sitting in front of somebody, the person who's evaluating you for the job also weights these things a little bit differently, but you certainly have them categorized properly. There is that formal education. It's that formal degree that you would get ideally from an accredited institution, whether it is a technical school, a community college, a college or university, and these things are named different things around the world. I'm kind of speaking United States educational talk, but it is that secondary education once you get out of high school. And ideally, it's that education that takes a little bit longer. You're through 1 or 2 years to get an AA degree in the United States, and then you'd go another 2 years, a total of 4 years to get a bachelor's degree in the United States. That's a lot of learning. That's a lot of classes and a lot of materials, and it focuses not only on what you need to know to get your career started. If you're interested in technology, you can get a degree that has something to do with technology, but they also teach you a lot of things around that. In the United States, the first 2 years are really focused on things that may not specifically be about your particular goals for your ultimate degree. You may be learning about art. You may be going to English classes and learning about writing skills. And of course, all of these things actually really do help when you get down to understanding what you need to know for your ultimate degree that you'll be getting. But it's a much longer time frame, and certainly is not focused on what a day-to-day job might be when you get out of school. I really enjoyed the art classes I had when I went to community college, but those art classes, I don't do a lot with them today other than understanding and having a better idea of the world around me, which is really the emphasis there. We're trying to understand our history and where we come from that. But your employer may not really care about that Grecian urn that you learned about when you were at community college. I've never had any Grecian urn questions in my interviews. So I'll talk more about how that fits. The other category you talked about was getting maybe certifications, getting these types of Microsoft, Cisco, CompTIA, the Oracle. We talked a lot about these certifications in the chat room just today. So there's that piece of it. Let's come back to that. And then the third category, which is really focusing on experience. You know, if you've done it, you can then apply that knowledge that you have to doing it towards doing it again, or using that information to do something better later on. And each one of them has value. For a lot of people, if you read questions that people talk about on Reddit or even on the forums on the Professor Messer website, people say experience it trumps all. Experience is the thing you have to have, bar none. And I think to some degree they are correct. In some degree they aren't. Just because you have experience doing something doesn't mean you're really good at it. I would never just hire someone just because they have experience for a certain amount of time at a certain organization. I'm going to want to ask more questions of them. What do they know technically about that? What processes have they gone through? That's why you go to an interview. Otherwise, it'd be pretty simple. You sit down. How many years of this you got? 3 years. How many years you got? 4. Okay, if you got 4, you win. You know, it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
You really have to hone the knowledge and the experience that you get. And it's that catch-22, of course, that if you have experience, then it's easier to get that job versus not. But if you don't have experience and you can't get the job, how are you supposed to get the experience so that you can get the job? And the catch-22 is in place because employers know that if you come out of a college or a university or even high school and you've gotten that initial degree, that there are things you can do that will teach you what you need to know. In fact, even coming out of a 4-year degree, I came out of a 4-year degree in business management. I'd worked part-time at a computing center at my college, but I wasn't ready to go into an insurance company and sit at a help desk. I didn't understand a lot of the technologies they were using. There were certain processes and procedures that I'd never done before. That's okay. They'll teach you. They know that you're fresh and that you don't have that experience. They're happy to teach you. I think the trade-off, of course, is that you get paid less when they have to teach you because they know that you're just starting out. But that's how the business process works. That's how the job hunt works. The part in the middle is the part that people obviously focus on when they're on my site, which is the certification. Is that really helping you? And it goes back to the question I asked earlier in the study group, which is, what do you plan on doing with the certification? Are you planning to use this certification to get a job? Are you planning to use it to move up to another job within that organization? We talked earlier today to a gentleman who was trying to do that. He was trying to get that certification, then get some Microsoft certifications, move into another group within that same company he was in. What a great opportunity, because people love to hire from within the same organization. They know you, they can trust you. There's a lot of benefits there. And that's why I never tell people that, oh yeah, get the certification, you'll get a job. A lot of people think for some reason that that's how it works, or they make the statement that a certification isn't going to get a job for you. Well, we never said that certification was going to get a job for you. Where'd that come from? That's a big straw man, that nobody's ever said that ever. But it does help because it shows that you've applied yourself towards a certain type of knowledge. You've gone through the basics of understanding that. And as much as people tend to in some ways, people who are higher up in the IT organizations tend to look down on the A+, that, well, that's not worth very much. Well, no, it's not worth very much to you. You're the senior security administrator, but I'm trying to learn that. I know nothing about installing Windows. I don't know how to fix the boot record if it breaks. And by the way, if you ask the security administrator to fix the boot record, they would have no idea how to do it. So don't even trust the people that are even telling you that it's not worthwhile. They couldn't do half the things that you'll do once you get your A+. Usually the people that bark loudest about how worthless it is are the people who would never be able to take the test if they walked in and tried to do some of these things. And I think some of this are you even see that when you're trying to break through and do these things. It's a combination of these things. The 4-year degree, the 2-year and 4-year degree, and even the technical degree that you might get are going to help you not only to get in the door and show that you're trainable. You went through 2 years and 4 years of college. We can teach you things. So we feel comfortable that you can apply yourself. We can teach you what you need to know here. And you do have some knowledge about the topics that you were trained on in the classes that you passed when you went to those organizations. But here's where the 2-year and 4-year degree really help you. And I don't want to get into, because in the chat room during the week, we get into these universities they're worthless. They're just taking your money and giving you a piece of paper. And we can have that argument. And we can talk about the pluses and minuses. But here's one of the pluses is that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you're ready you've moved out of the help desk, you've gone into working with servers, let's say, you now are knowledgeable with the servers, you've done a few server implementation projects. Now you want to move up and manage people who are doing this for you. You want to move into management, move up into a higher level within your organization. That 4-year degree is really, really helpful because for whatever reason, better or worse, again, we can have that argument, people look at that degree and say, okay, you're someone who is really trying to move up in your organization. You're someone who already thought at the very beginning you had a long-term view of what you wanted to accomplish. And because it took you 4 hours to get that degree, it took you 4 years to get that degree, people recognize you're someone who can really work towards something that is going to happen over a longer period of time. So your 4-year degree may not help you right out of the gate as much as you think. It may help you even more 10 years from now, interestingly enough. Certifications are the thing that you pepper into your CV, into your resume, that are going to then show that not only do I have this knowledge from school, but I've even applied myself further, that is really focused on the particular topics and skills that you as the employer are looking for. And if you're not sure the certification is something you should be doing to get a job, go out to Career Builder, go to Monster, go to whatever job board you like to go to and see what people are asking for. In your area, maybe they're asking for the Microsoft MTA. Maybe they're asking for a different kind of certification. Maybe they're not looking for certifications at all. But I think if you do have a certification and you can talk to people during the interview about what you learned and how you even applied those things, those certifications can absolutely be valuable as long as you're using them in the right way. And ultimately experience. I mean, the experience does indeed help you. If you walk into an interview and say, let's say this person's walking into the interview with the email. They're doing email archiving, and they'll say, well, what projects have you worked on with email archiving? Well, I'm glad you asked, because 6 months ago, we converted everything over from a Microsoft Exchange to a Microsoft 360 in the cloud. We had to implement the 360 archiving. We implemented that using Microsoft's APIs or whatever method they use. You can talk about how you solved that particular technical problem. So I wish I could tell people, yeah, all you need's experience. Yeah, all you need's certifications. All you need's 4-year degree, but it never works that way. It's always a combination of those things together. That Mike from the Mike Tech Show always talks about that being that chair, and it has those 3 legs. You can't get rid of one of those. You really need all 3 of those legs to go and touch the ground so that you're sitting on something very solid when you go in and try to get that job. So hopefully that gives you a perspective of some of the things that you'll see once you get out there and start looking through that. And maybe that can also take you through a mindset of what you should be doing into the future as well, because this never stops. You're in constant motion with learning those things. So I've now talked for 10 minutes, John, but is that kind of the idea of the things that you're looking for?
Well, you went above and beyond on the answer, and probably people in the chat are thankful, but I also wanted to talk about my situation.
Please do.
I have no certs, and I dropped out of college, but I was able to get an entry-level IT job.
Great. Okay.
And I'm taking my A+ next week.
What do you plan on doing that? What's that going to do for you?
Months. Well, right now I'm at right now it's temporary. So I'm only on until June.
Gotcha.
And with the A+, I'm able to stay there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's motivating. That's exceptionally motivating.
I just wanted to say that volunteering, it would be the best way to do it without school or experience or a cert. Volunteer everywhere for free. I worked with my high school IT guy. I was actually helping him set up login accounts for all the students.
And this is once you've left high school, you went back to the person in charge of the high school network and said, hey, you know me. I can help you with this.
Yeah.
What do you need to do?
Exactly.
Oh, that's great.
I went to, well, at the time I was at the high school, there was a computer class, and I took 4 years of that.
And so, of course, the instructor knew you. The people at the high school knew you. They were comfortable with you. We talk a lot about volunteering. And there was a website we talked about last month, the month before, volunteermatch.org. So if you don't have a high school you can go back to, or people that you know, I had clicked around in my city and found a number of places that were looking for computer help. And not only were they looking for help, but they were organizations that are helping other people. So you're really doing a lot for your community by volunteering at a number of these places. And I also want to touch on something else you said, because you talked about not having the formal education, not having the 4-year degree or the 2-year degree. And if you don't have one of those things, it's not completely a game changer. It's not a game ender.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
It's not. I work with some folks in doing high-level security type solutions. Folks that don't have a college degree. They got out of high school, no college degree, but extremely knowledgeable, extremely driven. They understood the technology and they wrapped themselves around it. You don't have to have a 4-year degree to understand how networks work. I mean, it's more of of a technical set of knowledge skills that you would need. And this individual I'm thinking of has been incredibly successful at what he's done, and has, you know, the beautiful family and the beautiful house, and living and making a very nice living for himself. And now is starting other businesses. It's what you do with what you have that makes the difference. And of course, we all go back and go, well, Bill Gates didn't finish college, and Steve Jobs didn't finish college, so I can do that. Well, it's a little bit harder. And anyone who's gone through that will tell you there's other things you're going to have to do to get over some of those humps. But you can, in IT, you can absolutely do this.
Yeah, I came from working at a lawnmower shop.
Okay.
So.
That in itself might be motivating enough to learn more about computers and networks in itself.
That was my major motivation.
My first job in that, in fact, one of my very first jobs was working at a dairy that grew blueberry plants, and they would take the blueberries, package them up, and for some reason send them to France. I don't know what this was about. It's this nowhere in the middle of Florida that we did this, but the blueberry bushes were so small that you had to manually hoe around them to get rid of all of the weeds. So we were out there for hours of a day just hoeing around blueberries. And after the first day, I'm thinking, I have got to get an education. What in the world would I do if I had to do that today? It's those kinds of experiences, though, that I look back and go, I learned a lot in the blueberry field, and I bet you learned a lot at working on the lawnmowers.
Yes. Start them every month.
Yeah. Yep. Every time. That's a fantastic story. And I think you'll find that knowledge and the things, in a way, there's your experience that you'll be able to pull on. Even if the employer is not interested in that particular job, you're using that experience today. It really does come in handy wherever you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the call, and good luck with that.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for your answer.
Take care.
You too.
There's a lot to deal with there, but we've come to, gosh, is it the end of our hour and then some? If you're on the line, please stay on the line. We, of course, have our after show at the end of this. I always like to take even more calls, and we kind of go off the track a little bit. But if you're watching this for your A+ certification, you've now got an hour of this. You can lock into a CEU and use something. And of course, we do this every month. You're welcome to join us and see what we do on all of these things. If you'd like to really keep track of what we're doing, you can watch me on Twitter and see what's going on there. We also have the YouTube and the Facebook. If you go to professormesser.com/anything, you'll certainly find what we're doing there. If you're interested in my study guides, they are $10 a piece. And you can find them at professormesser.com/A+SG, or find it from the pull down menus. GTS Learning, of course, with their live labs, you go to professormesser.com/freestyle labs. You can learn more about that and get your free hour that you can use with those pieces. And of course, we do this every month. I, of course, have a calendar on the Professor Messer website that I try to keep updated to tell you what's going on. Next week, usually we do a Network Plus study course a week after this, but in this particular case, I'm waiting another week after that. So from 2 weeks from now, we'll do the Network Plus course we do. And of course, thanks to you, I wouldn't be able to do these study groups if I didn't have all of you here to be able to keep track of all these things that we're doing, to give me the questions, to really provide the information about what do we do next with all of these things. It really is extremely valuable for us to be able to talk about that and get that information out. And we'll do that and so much more next month. So thanks for joining us. See you next time on the Professor Messer A+ Study Group.